The night was quiet at Dock 17. Only the cold wind whispered through the rusted metal walls. Eli, a human cargo worker, wiped sweat from his forehead and pushed the last container into place. He had been working overtime for 3 days straight. Just to make enough credits to pay rent, the stars above looked distant and uncaring, just like the people who owned this station at the corner of the docking bay. There was an old crate covered with a dirty brown tarp. It didn't look like the others. It was smaller, older, and leaking a strange green mist. The tag on it said, "Property of slaver Guildburn after arrival. No one touched it, no one asked about it. Everyone just walked past like it didn't exist." Eli was about to leave when he heard something, a soft sound, like a whisper. He froze and turned, eyes scanning the empty bay. Nothing. He shook his head and laughed nervously. Maybe just his tired mind playing tricks. But then he heard it again. This time clearer, a weak voice, almost like a breath, said, "Please, help." Eli's heart jumped. It came from the covered crate. Slowly, carefully, he walked toward it. His boots echoed on the steel floor. The green mist curled around his ankles. He stopped right in front of it. The sound didn't come again, but his gut told him something was wrong, very wrong. He reached forward and pulled at the tarp. It was heavy and smelled like rust and mold. As he peeled it back, his hand trembled. Underneath was a crate made of dark metal. Sealed but damaged, a crack ran down the side, and through it he saw movement, fingers thin. Pale blue fingers, shaking slowly. Eli's breath caught in his throat without thinking. He ripped the tarp off completely and crouched down inside. The crate was a young alien woman, barely conscious, her skin sickly and bruised. She was curled up, her knees to her chest, shackles on her wrists and ankles. Her lips were dry, and her eyes half closed were filled with silent pain. She opened her mouth again, voice barely a whisper, "Air, please." Eli stumbled back in shock, his mind spinning. They were going to burn her alive, like trash. She was still breathing, but just barely. He dropped to his knees, tore open the damaged crate door, and reached in. "Hold on, I got you," he said, his voice shaking. She flinched at first, then slowly reached toward him. Her hand was cold like ice. He pulled her out gently, careful of her chains, and wrapped his jacket around her. "You're safe now," he whispered. Though he didn't believe it himself, the comlink on his belt beeped. It was his supervisor. "Leave all tagged cargo untouched, final warning," the voice said coldly. Eli looked down at the alien girl in his arms. She was breathing easier now, but only just. He looked at the crate, at the tag, at the green mist still leaking out. Who would do this to someone? What kind of people sealed a living being into a box and marked it for fire? His hands clenched into fists. He had two choices. He could walk away, pretend he didn't hear anything, just finish his shift. Or he could break the rule, risk his job, maybe even his life. The girl's eyes opened wider for a moment. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Glowing faintly in the dim light, she tried to speak again, but no words came out, only a silent plea. Her body was trembling, her breathing still shallow. Eli stood up, holding her carefully. He turned and walked toward the back hallway, away from the cameras. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, "but no one deserves this." He slipped into the shadows, his heart pounding in his chest. Behind him, the crate sat open, empty now. The green mist faded. But something else began to rise, something bigger than just one girl in chains. The night had been silent, but now it was watching. Eli moved quickly through the side corridor, his arms tight around the fragile alien girl. The lights above flickered weakly, casting long shadows on the metal floor. Each step echoed like a warning, but he didn't stop. He didn't know what kind of danger he'd just invited into his life. But he knew one thing: he wasn't letting her die in a box. His storage unit was small and hidden, tucked behind stacked fuel tanks and broken equipment. He opened the rusty door and stepped inside, laying her down gently on a soft old blanket. She was barely conscious, her chest rising slowly, painfully. He searched for a medkit, found a water pack, and lifted it to her lips. "Easy now," he said. "Just sip." She drank, little by little. But her eyes stayed on his face, scared, tired, but watching. Eli gave her his coat again and placed a heating pad beside her. Her skin was ice cold, with light blue patterns that pulsed faintly beneath the surface. He sat beside her, confused and angry. Who was she? Why was she inside that crate? He noticed something around her neck, a thick black collar with blinking red lights, cold metal. Locked tight, he leaned closer and saw a number etched into it. Something about it made his stomach twist. She wasn't just a prisoner. She had been tagged like equipment. Eli looked at her shackled wrists and whispered, "Who did this to you?" She didn't answer with words. Instead, she reached for a broken datapad near the heater. Her hands trembling, with great effort, she tapped letters one by one. Inirai, that was her name. Nari. Eli repeated softly, and she gave a weak nod. She pointed at the collar next, then at her chest. Her expression turned serious, almost urgent. He didn't understand at first. Then it hit him. The collar wasn't just a chain. It was draining her. Eli stood up and searched through his drawer. Pulling out old tools, he grabbed a cutter and knelt beside her again. "I'm going to get this off," he said. She shook her head quickly, eyes wide, terrified. Then she tapped again, slowly, biolock. Bomb inside. Eli froze, his hands in midair. A bomb. If he cut it wrong, it could kill her instantly. He dropped the cutter and took a step back, his face pale. I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know." She tapped again. "Only slave code can unlock." Eli clenched his fists. Whoever put this on her wanted her to die slowly. That crate wasn't just a prison, was a coffin. And the station planned to burn it like trash. Suddenly, there was a noise outside, boots on metal. Voices in the distance. Eli's eyes narrowed. He peeked out the door and saw two men in black armor walking past the hallway. Slavers, they were. Scanning the area, holding a data tracker, zoned for missing item. Moving to investigate, one of them said. Eli's blood ran cold. They were looking for her. He turned to Nari, who was trying to sit up, her body shaking. "No," he said, pressing her gently back down. "You're not going anywhere." She gripped his wrist, her fingers still weak, but her eyes burned with something more now, fear, but also hope. "Listen to me," Eli whispered. "I'll find a way to unlock this thing, I promise." Nayari blinked slowly, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. He reached up and wiped it away with his thumb. "You're not going back in that box," he added. "Not while I'm breathing." The tracker beeped louder. Outside, Eli closed the door and locked it from inside. Then he turned off the lights, sat beside her, and held her hand for the next hour. He listened to the sounds of boots and scanners getting closer, then fading again. The slavers didn't find her, not yet, when the noise was gone. Nari finally whispered something for the first time. Her voice was cracked and soft. "Thank you." Eli looked at her, surprised. She didn't sound like a creature or a slave. She sounded like someone who had once been free, once had a life, and now she had nothing but chains. He gently brushed her silver blue hair back from her face. "You don't owe me thanks," he said. "You deserve better than this." The silence between them was warm now, not empty. For the first time, Nari didn't look like she was dying. She looked like someone holding on. And Eli knew he couldn't stop here. He had to help her get free, no matter what it cost. Even if it meant breaking every rule. Even if it meant becoming a criminal, he had seen what was underneath the cover, and now he couldn't look away. The next morning came slowly. The light through the station vents was dim and blue. Eli hadn't slept, not even for a minute. He sat beside Nari the whole night, listening to her slow breaths, making sure she was still alive. The small room smelled like oil and dust, but it was warmer now. He had wrapped her in every old cloth he had. She needed more than warmth, though. She needed medical help and freedom, but both came with a price. And he wasn't sure he could pay it outside. The slavers were still searching. They moved in pairs, scanning crates, asking questions, watching people. No one trusted them, but no one dared to stop them either. The station belonged to the trade guild, but the slavers had deals with them, silent deals, sealed with credits. Eli knew one thing. If they found Nari, she would be gone. No questions, no trial, just gone. Back into the crate, or worse. He looked at her now, still resting. Her face pale but calmer than before. He had given her his last food rations, protein, paste and warm tea. She had eaten slowly, hands shaking, like she didn't believe the food was real. Her voice was stronger now, though still soft. "You're kind," she whispered. "Most would leave." Eli shook his head. "I've seen too much wrong already." He replied, "If I do nothing now, I'm no better." Nari gave him a faint smile, but then touched the collar again. It still blinked red, like a threat hanging over her life. "Biolock," she said again. "Only code from Masterworks." Eli paced the room, thinking fast. There was only one place on the station that might have that code. The slaver's data chip, kept in the admin tower. Getting in meant breaking into a private network. It was guarded, protected, illegal. But he had worked there once, long ago, when he was just a cleaner. He still remembered the access ducts. The risk was insane, but it was the only way. "I'm going to steal the code," he said at last. Nari looked at him in shock. "You'll die," she said, voice full of fear. "Maybe," Eli answered, "but if I don't try, you will." He prepared fast, took an old uniform, cleaned it best he could, and hid his face with a hood. He kissed Nara's hand gently before leaving. "Lock the door behind me. Only open it when you hear my knock 3 short." "Too long," she nodded slowly, her eyes wet again. He left without looking back, because if he did, he might not be able to walk away. The station halls were busy now, workers moving crates, drones flying overhead. He kept his head down, walking with confidence, like he belonged there. The admin tower was on the upper ring, filled with officers, traders, and black market dealers. Eli took the maintenance ladder instead of the front gate. Climbing quietly through the duct, it was dark and narrow. But he knew the path. He moved fast. Like his old janitor days came back to him, muscle memory in every step. He reached the data room, heart pounding. The door had a keypad. Eli remembered the old code. He tried it, hands shaking. It worked. The door slid open. Inside were rows of data cores and security feeds. And in the corner, a silver disc marked Slaver Logs. He grabbed it and plugged in his portable decoder. His eyes scanned fast, searching. Then he saw it, Nari's ID number, and next to it, the Biolock code. His hand froze as he copied it. Just then, a voice shouted behind him, "Hey! What are you doing here?" Eli spun around. A guard stood in the doorway, without thinking. Eli threw the nearest object, a metal rod. Hit the lights. Sparks flew. He dashed out, alarms blaring. Running through the halls, heart racing. Guards were shouting behind him. He didn't stop. He dove back into the lower levels, climbed through trash chutes, crawled through wet tunnels. At last, he reached his storage unit. His body sore, hands bleeding. He knocked 3 short, 2 long. The door opened, and Nari pulled him inside quickly, locking it again. "You're hurt," she cried, holding him up. I got it, he said, smiling through the pain. I got the code. He took a breath, pulled out the device, and typed in the numbers. The collar on Nara's neck beeped, then flashed green. With a soft click, it opened and fell to the ground. Neri gasped. A tear falling down her cheek, she touched her neck slowly, like she wasn't sure it was real. Then she looked at Eli, and in her eyes was something new. Hope, you did it, she whispered. Eli nodded. Collapsing beside her, I told you I would. Outside, alarms still echoed, but in that small room, something had changed. A slave was now free, and a human had risked everything. Just to make that happen, the collar lay silent on the floor, its red light gone. Eli stared at it, chest still rising fast from the run. He had done it. He had broken the law, stolen from the slavers, and freed a girl he barely knew. But as he looked at her now free, breathing easier, no chains around her neck, he felt no regret. Nari touched her bare skin carefully. As if afraid the collar would return, her blue fingers trembled. But there was a spark in her now, a quiet strength that had been buried beneath fear. You should leave, she said softly. They'll come for you. Eli shook his head, wiping blood from his knuckles. Let them come, he said. I won't leave you. She sat up straighter now. Eyes sharp, there was something about hers, something different, even weak and wounded. She held herself like someone important, like someone who used to lead. Who are you, really? Eli asked. You weren't just a slave, were you? Nari hesitated, then looked him in the eye. No, she said, her voice clearer now. I wasn't. She turned to the old datapad and began to type. As words appeared on the screen, Eli's eyes widened. My name is Narethaline Voss, daughter of the House of Vosari, royal line of Illuvian. I was taken by force during the Night of Flames. They killed my guards, my sisters, my people. They used me to power their machines. Eli stepped back slowly, stunned. Your royalty, he whispered. Nari nodded once. I was, she said. Now I am just. What's left? She stood shakily, pulled her long hair back, and turned her head. Beneath her hair was a mark glowing silver under her skin, shaped like a falling star. Eli had seen symbols like that on old news reports. Illuvian royalty were gifted beings known for their energy, their light, but after the war, most were gone, hunted for their power. That's why they kept you in a crate, Eli said, voice heavy. They used you like fuel. Nari looked down, ashamed. I thought I would die in there, she said. I prayed someone would open the cover, but I stopped believing after the third day. Her voice cracked when you pulled it back. I thought I was dreaming. Eli sat beside her again, quiet for a moment. I wasn't trying to save a princess, he said with a small smile. Just someone who needed help. She looked at him, eyes softer now. You did save me, she whispered, more than you know. Suddenly, a deep hum shook the floor beneath them. The room lights flickered. Eli rushed to the wall console and checked the feed. A ship had entered orbit. Not just any ship. It was sleek, dark blue, glowing with the same silver as Neris' mark. An Illuvian design. Neri stood beside him, her hand gripping the doorframe. That's one of ours, she said, voice trembling. It can't be, Eli said. I thought your people were all gone, so did I, she answered, eyes filling with tears again. They must have tracked my pulse. When I sent that shockwave, there was a knock at the door, soft, gentle, but firm. Nari stepped back, afraid. Eli grabbed a metal bar and stood in front of her. A voice spoke from the other side. Calm and musical. Narethaline, daughter of the fallen house, we come in peace. We have followed your signal. Your blood still glows. Your name still matters. Eli looked at Nari. She was shaking, torn between hope and fear. If they take me back, she whispered, I'll never see you again. He turned to her. "Then stay," he said simply. "You're free now." She looked down, heart torn in two. But she knew there were others like her still in chains. She had to know the truth. She had to find her people. "I have to go," she said, "but not forever." Eli nodded slowly. "I'll be here," he said. Always. The door opened, and two tall alien figures stood outside, blue-skinned, dressed in silver robes. They bowed deeply to Nari, but eyed Eli with caution. Nari held her head high as she stepped forward. Then turned one last time. She placed her hand on Eli's chest. Over his heart, "You are my light," she said, when all I saw was darkness. Then she walked away with the strangers, and the door closed, leaving Eli in silence. He looked at the empty room. At the fallen collar, his life had changed. And he didn't even know how far this story would reach. But he had seen the truth. What was underneath the cover was not just a girl, not just a slave. It was the spark of something greater, and it had just been set free. The room felt empty after Nari left. Her scent still lingered, soft and strange, like warm wind on frozen metal. Eli sat in silence, staring at the collar on the floor. His hands still hurt from the fight, but his heart ached more. He had set her free, but now he was the one being hunted across the station. Sirens flashed red. Security had discovered the break-in at the admin tower. Slavers were furious. Someone had stolen their data and released classified cargo. They didn't know it was Eli. But it wouldn't take long. Eli stood, his body sore but mind racing. He had to act before they caught him, not to save himself, but to stop what had happened to Nari from happening again. He connected his stolen slaver disk to an old terminal in his storage room. The screen flickered, then loaded the files, hundreds of names, pictures, and logs. Not just Nari, dozens of others, young aliens, rare species, sold for power, silence, or worse, crates marked for burn. Logs with words like energy units, bioreserve, dispose quietly. Eli clenched his jaw. It wasn't just cruelty. It was a system, a business, hidden beneath trade and cargo codes, and it had to end. He knew one person who could help: Lieutenant Marek, an old soldier turned station lawkeeper. Marek hated the slavers, but his hands were tied by the trade guild. Still, if anyone had a voice loud enough to shout truth, it was him. Eli copied the files onto a clean chip, tucked it deep inside his boot. He left his room for the last time, the collar still lying on the ground like a warning. Before he closed the door, he looked back once. "I'll see you again, Nari," he whispered. "But first, I'm going to finish what we started." The walk to Marek's office wasn't safe. Slaver guards were everywhere now, scanning workers, searching faces. Eli pulled his hood low and walked like he belonged, fast, quiet, invisible. His heart beat hard, but he didn't slow down when he reached Marek's post. The lieutenant looked up with tired eyes. He wore old military armor patched with trade colors. His office smelled like coffee and war stories. "What is it?" Marek asked. Eli closed the door behind him and pulled out the chip. "I need you to see something," he said. Marek narrowed his eyes, but took the chip when the files loaded. Marek's face went still. He scrawled in silence gray codes. Living beings, names marked for death. His hands tightened into fists. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Eli looked him in the eye. "I broke in," he said. "I found Hernera from the House of Osari. They had her in a crate marked for burn." Marek stood up, anger burning behind his calm face. "They lied to us," he growled. "Said those crates were bio-waste, damaged tech. They're killing royalty. Children, rare minds." Eli nodded. "And they'll keep doing it unless someone stops them." Marek took a deep breath, then pulled out his old communicator. He dialed a private channel, one used only during emergencies. "Get me command level 2, he said. "We've got a code red trafficking breach." Outside the door, Boots approached loud, fast, angry. Our slaver guards had traced Eli's steps. Hide, Merrick whispered. Now. Eli ducked behind a shelf just as the door burst open. 2 slaver officers stepped in. Weapons drawn. We tracked stolen data here. One growled. Marek didn't flinch. This is a law office, he snapped. And I don't answer to you. They stepped closer. Where is he? Marek stared. Them down, check the registry, or get out. The guards exchanged a look. Then left, but not without a warning. We'll find him, they said. And when we do, no one will stop us. When they were gone, Eli stepped out. Merrick handed him the chip back. They'll be watching now, he said. You can't stay here. Eli nodded. I don't need to stay, he said. I just need this message to spread. They uploaded the files to a secure station-wide relay. Within minutes, workers all over the station were seeing the truth. Images of chained beings. Slaver codes, disposal orders. The station buzzed with whispers, shouts, and growing anger. Eli didn't wait. He moved through the lower tunnels, past old hangars, heading to the outbound port. He didn't care where he went, as long as he stayed ahead of the slavers. But just before he reached the outer gate, a small ship landed. It was sleek, quiet, and blue. The same color as the one that took Nari away. The door opened, and there she stood. Nari heeled, her eyes bright, her posture strong, behind her. Stood to guards, but they didn't step forward. She walked to Eli, alone. You did it? She said, her voice warm. They saw your signal, your message. They're preparing to act. Eli blinked. I thought you left. I told you, she said, smiling gently. Not forever. Asterisk, the station was no longer silent. Screens flashed warnings. Whispers filled the halls. And the slavers had gone quiet. Not gone, but watching. Eli stood beside Nari, his heart pounding, unsure if he was dreaming or about to be arrested. But she was real. Her eyes were brighter now. Her skin healed. The silver mark on her neck, glowing like fire under moonlight. Nari stepped closer, reaching for his hand. They're listening now, she whispered. Your signal was the spark. Eli looked at her, still stunned. You came back, he said, voice rough. Why? She smiled softly. Because you didn't run, she said. And now? I won't either. Behind her, the Eluvian ship shimmered quietly. And from its ramp stepped a tall figure in royal armor. His face was stern but calm. And his silver cape bore the crest of the Vosari line. I am Captain Alianek, the man, said Royal Guardian of the Lost Line. He looked at Eli with sharp, assessing eyes. You are the human who defied the slavers. Eli hesitated, unsure how to answer. But Nari stepped forward and spoke clearly. He is the one who saved me from the crate, she said. The one who freed me. The captain nodded once. Then he is to be honored, he said. But also, he is now marked. Eli frowned. What do you mean? The slaver network runs deep, Elianek said. Beyond this station, across star systems, they've seen your face, heard your name, and now? They want silence. Eli glanced at Nari. So what now? He asked. Do I hide again? Nari shook her head. No, she said. You walk with me. She turned toward the crowd forming nearby, workers, traders, technicians all staring. Some looked confused, others hopeful. Marik had joined them, standing beside the crowd, his hand resting on his sidearm. Nari stepped forward, her voice rising. My name is Narithaline Voss, she said. I was taken from my people. Used as energy, chained like cargo. This human saved me not because I was royalty, but because I was breathing. He risked everything. While others turned away, the people listened, silent and still. Nari pointed to the screens still showing slaver files. This is not just my story, she said. Many more are still hidden, still suffering. Eli felt his chest tighten. He hadn't asked for this. He was just a cargo worker, tired and poor. But now he stood at the center of something bigger. Then himself. The crowd began to murmur agreement, anger, disbelief, but also courage. Then someone shouted, "We should storm the slaver station." Another yelled, "They have crates in Dock 12. We saw them last night." Merrick stepped forward, voice calm but strong. "Easy," he said. "If we act too fast, we lose." "Everything." He turned to Nari. "What do you need from us?" Nari nodded. "Time," she said, "and protection. My people are returning, ships are on the way. If we can hold the truth until they arrive, we'll expose the entire chain." Eli stepped beside her. "And if the slavers strike before that?" he asked. Nara's eyes burned with quiet fire. "Then we show them we are not afraid," she said. "Not anymore." Later that night, in a private chamber deep inside the Alluvian ship, Eli sat beside a window, watching stars drift by. Neri entered quietly, wearing a long robe, with silver threads that shimmered like starlight. "I missed the silence," she said, sitting beside him. "Your station always hummed like it was breathing." Eli laughed lightly. "You missed that noise," he said. "You've really changed." She turned toward him. "No," she said. Gently, "You changed me." For a moment, neither spoke. The stars outside seemed closer than before. "I thought I was broken," Nari whispered. "A thing, not a person. But when you touched my hand, when you gave me water, wrapped me in a jacket, I remembered I was alive." Eli turned to her. "I didn't save you," he said. "You saved yourself. I just opened the cover." She smiled and reached for his hand again, holding it tightly. "That's all I needed," she said. One human brave enough to open the cover. Then her smile faded slightly. "But eyes are still watching," she said. "Some from far worse places." Eli frowned. "Slavers." She nodded. "And others, the energy in me. It's not just for machines," she said. "It can bend light, move gravity, heal life, or destroy it. There are those who want that power for war." Eli leaned forward. "Then we stop them too." She looked at him, a little surprised. "You're not scared?" "I'm tired," he said honestly, "but not scared." A small laugh escaped her lips, light and full of warmth. "I'm glad," she said, "because what's coming may be bigger than both of us." Outside, stars shimmered, and in the darkness between them, ships began to move, silent and deadly, marked with brands unknown to any trade guild. The slavers were not just watching anymore. They were preparing. The station was no longer just a trade post. It had become a battleground of truth. Ever since Neri's return and Eli's message broadcasted through the station's old relay systems, everything had changed. Crates once ignored were now opened. In one was a child, barely breathing. In another, a young engineer with his fingers broken. Dozens were found, chained and silent, hidden under false labels like fuel, scrap, or quarantine. And all of them had one thing in common: someone thought they weren't worth saving, but someone had saved them. A tired human worker, and a girl once forgotten beneath a tarp. Nari stood before the gathered crowd once again, this time not trembling, not afraid. She wore silver armor, gifted by her people, but her eyes searched for one face: Eli's. He stood near the edge, still, wearing his dusty jacket, his boots scuffed and worn, and when she saw him, her heart settled. This was the man who had changed everything. Captain Alienic stepped forward, voice deep and steady. "By the order of the Alluvian Royal Council, and in honor of the ancient bond once shared with humanity, we declare this outpost liberated." The slavers had vanished days earlier, once their secrets were exposed. Their ships fled into deep space, but Nari knew they would return someday. Power never let go without a fight. The difference now was that she was no longer alone. She had a voice, she had allies, and she had him. Later that night, under the quiet hum of the ship's medical wing, Nari found Eli leaning against the wall. He had cuts on his arm, but refused treatment until everyone else was cared for. Still stubborn, she said, smiling. Still walking, he replied. Smiling back, they sat down together, side by side, their shoulders touching. Is it over? Eli asked. Nari shook her head slowly. Not yet, she said. But the hard part is, they watched the stars through the ship's viewing glass. Tiny lights blinking across the black sky. So? What happens now? Eli asked, his voice soft. You go back to being a queen or something. Nari laughed gently. I was never a queen, she said. And I don't want to be one now. I want to build something. For the ones still out there. She looked at him. With you? Eli turned to her, surprised. With me. She nodded. I don't want to sit in a palace. She said, I want to open doors, real doors, to shelters, to homes, to second chances. Eli took a deep breath. You know I'm just a cargo guy. Right you were, she said, squeezing his hand. But now? You're the reason others are breathing. They sat in silence for a while. And then Nari stood up, holding out her hand. Come with me, she said. There's something I want you to see. He followed her through the ship, down to the hangar bay. Inside was a new vessel, sleek, clean, but not royal. It had human and alien tech joined together, side by side. This is ours, Nari said. A mobile shelter. We'll travel across systems, find others like meal like we were. Eli stepped inside, looking at the soft beds, warm lights, and healing tools. It felt nothing like a prison. It felt like hope. He turned to her. I don't know if I'm ready, he said honestly. Nari walked up and looked him in the eyes. You don't have to be ready, she said. You just have to show up. Like you did the first night. He laughed. A little tired, a little amazed. You're serious? She nodded. Dead serious. He looked around again, then smiled slowly. All right then, he said. Let's go find more crates to open. And with that, the doors closed behind them. The ship lifted into the stars, quiet but strong, its lights glowing like a lighthouse in the dark. They weren't warriors, not in the way the galaxy expected. But they were something more powerful, a human with nothing to lose, and an alien with everything to give. Together, they would search for the forgotten. Together, they would build something new, and somewhere in the darkness, more eyes watched. Some with fear, some with hope, but all knowing the girl beneath the cover was no longer silent.